Thanks for coming and putting up with me. I want to talk about the rabbit hole, but first we're going to talk about magic, because that's the word of the day in Pee-wee's Playhouse. So I did my best. There will be a scripted portion and an unscripted portion to this presentation. So in the best books, there's always magic. Sometimes the magic is the magic. Sometimes it's only half as much. It can also be the magic of our everyday lives, or a series of small miracles. It could be the nighttime magic of going to sleep, or the growing up magic in our hopes and dreams, or just the ordinary magic of what a friend can be. For anyone who has grown up with books, there's always one or two books that we remember vividly. Books that comfort, and books that somehow changed us. For me, reading came late. When I was a kid, I went to this school. I played all the time outside for hours and hours, and watched TV a lot. Even though my dad was a professor, I rarely read books. When I finally did take an interest in books in high school, this is the book that changed me. This is the book that made me into a reader. This is the page. And this is the passage that cast a spell. Up until then, I didn't know what you could actually write in a book. In any case, the real magic, the deep magic of a book isn't what it's about per se, or whether it has actual magic, but rather how it connects with us and advances the way we think about ourselves and the world around us, and how it helps us discover our own story within the larger story of the big wide world. Casting the spell has become harder. If you don't grow up around books, getting the magic isn't always easy. The act of reading itself has become an ordeal for many. There are reasons for this. Only 50 to 55% of parents read to their kids on a regular basis, and this has been a very dependable statistic for the last 25 years. We live in a world now of growing distraction. And we've mechanized reading and have come to rely on the reward systems so that reading begins to look and feel like a chore. And if you live in poverty, things are even bleaker. So we have this bigger problem. And the consequences are real and chronic. Functional illiteracy predicts failure in school, in work, in life in general. 14% of American adults can't read, 21% can't read above a fifth grade level. Many programs have been implemented over the years to address literacy and grade level reading early on, using standardized strategies in the classroom to build reading skills that allow outcomes to be measured and monitored. Unfortunately, we're often sucking the magic out of books in this process, so that the crisis-driven model starts to resemble a theater of war. So it's no wonder that we've come to rely on reward systems to motivate readers. Here's a big one. Pizza. Pizza's a big one. You read 500 books, you get a slice of pizza. First of all, nobody reads 500 books. And second of all, pizza's not a very good reward. Here's a better one, but it's still ridiculous. Like, we need more time on PlayStation. And here's the bottom of the barrel. Read that book. I'll give you $20 if you finish it. These sorts of incentives might help some kids read on demand, but they will never ever produce lifelong readers. So here's the disconnect. We want all our kids not simply to read, not simply as a utility, but for the joy and the enormous cognitive benefits that reading can deliver. We know that the activity of reading is one of the most important of all human activities, functionally, intellectually, and spiritually. We just know this. I mean, everybody knows this. If you don't know that, you're not a reader, I guess. And we know that our culture rests on the foundation of literature and story. We're standing in a building that is based on story. And it's expressed in pictures and sculpture and in objects. All of which begs the question, where in our culture do we celebrate books and reading and the magic of story? We spend a lot of time celebrating sports. We love sports a lot. And we celebrate it. It's reflected in our culture everywhere. We love screen culture a lot. We love our movies a lot. A little art now and then, but never enough. You know, I'm in the building. We need to celebrate when you drag your kids here. We're obsessed with food. Sometimes when I go downtown in Kansas City, I think if I'm not going to eat something or have a wedding, I should not be there. But what about this insanely important activity of reading? And what about the books that nourish that activity? Where is that place? And the answer is it doesn't exist yet. We're building the place where books live, in the rabbit hole. And we've dubbed it the world's first Explorastorium. Inside of the rabbit hole, which does not exist yet, inside the building of the rabbit hole, there will be an evolving wonderland of narrative interventions. Stories come to life, discoverable environments, and connections that we make between the history and the contemporary practice of children's literature. This is a 100-year panorama that we're planning, so that when you come into this wildly raucous adventure of the rabbit hole, you can find a fixed point and find a context for what some of the things you're looking at. Within all of that, we'll have 2 3,000 square foot galleries committed to a single title. Could be a picture book, could be a novel, where we create the journey of that book, where you can walk through books. Those will be created and recreated every 4 months, so every time you come back to the rabbit hole, you'll get a new experience. But these galleries are really instrumental because it allows us and the people visiting to discover new stories and new relationships in books that they might not have seen before. We'll have several galleries, but a discovery gallery where you can interact with the work, you can learn about the author, and you can see the original artwork from the book. We also want to create that platform of multiple levels of engagement with story. So if you walk through an exhibit upstairs, you might go down into our Rabbit Warren Theater and catch Paul Mesner puppeting that show, or a show about another book by that author. We're going to have a print shop and a bindery. This is a quiet but big part of our project because it does a lot of things. It helps us run. It kind of becomes the epicenter of our writing and story labs, which will be patterned in some ways after 826 Valencia, something Dave Eggers brought to us. And of course, the Reading Reptile will have a renaissance in the rabbit hole, and that'll be our gift shop / bookstore. It'll be a working bookstore, so if you just wanted to bring kids to story time, you can do that. The great part about our project, again, is the connection to the industry itself, and our National Advisory Board is a testament to that fact. We have some of the greatest living authors and illustrators on our National Advisory Board, including Lisa Campbell Ernst, who's sitting here today. She's Kansas City's pride and legend in picture book making. And it's going to have, I mean, that's a thing Kansas City will benefit from, national exposure. People will be coming regionally and nationally to see this. There's nothing like it in the world. This is where we are now. We're in a little workshop down on the boulevard. This is our headquarters for now. It's a temporary space. We bring people there to beg them for money, and we also bring children and families and anybody who wants to learn about the rabbit hole, and we show them. Mostly what we do there is make stuff. We are thinking about things and trying to get ahead of the curve. Once we do get a building, things are going to start moving very quickly. You can see some of the stuff in our workshop. One of the things we've needed to do, one of our big efforts this year is to demonstrate some of the things that we plan to bring. The first thing we made was a Cowdin Underpants outreach pop-up. So this is a traveling prototype for a traveling pop-up exhibit featuring the adventures of Cowdin Underpants, which is one of the best-selling books in kids literature and also one of the most banned books in kids literature. So that's great. Another huge project we pulled off this spring was an immersive storybook gallery. So this is an example of one of those galleries I was talking about earlier. And this we built at 17th and Oak in this building. And we ran it for 6 weeks. It was only open to the public on weekends. We did easily 2,000 plus in just the public on those few days that we were open, and hosted 20 schools over that time period in a very short preparation period too. Again, showing the schools had already expended their budgets for buses, really eager to get down there and see it. One of the parts of our model, so this is a prototype, was to bring in the original artwork. So John shipped out his work ahead of time and we hung it in a small gallery next to the immersive exhibit. That was really terrific, and it really made connections for the kids and more so in some cases for adults, to kind of understand the book as an art form. There's John on his 5th glass of wine. He came out and he hung out in the gallery and he talked to people about the project. This is a model in front of him that they're surrounding. So that's one of the models for his immersive, but we have several models down at the studio for other books. But it also was really impressive for the kids to see that in a small scale and then how it was brought to life. We had one school come in that is a project-based school, and about a week late on Saturday after they visited, this woman jumped out of the car, this teacher, and ran up to the garage door where I was and said, "You gotta see these pictures." And she had taken her kids back to their school and they built a whole corduroy department store and then made the story for Corduroy's Lost Button. And so that really connected to them, and so that was great. So getting the author to come out is a video of some virtual renderings we've done with a friend of mine, taking some of our models and exploding them up into an architectural space. Now this is not the rabbit hole. This is a design tool that we're using just to look at things at scale. So it's kind of a statue garden right now, but it kind of, again, gives people a notion of kind of the scale we're looking at. You can see a lot of things happening here, but we're going to go up into Max's room. Again, this is just a sketch. Think of it as like a virtual sketch. In this case, you would go into Max's room, the wall would actually open, you would go down into this riverway and come back into the museum on a boat, on Max's boat. So we're working with those design tools too, and will be, so we just need to find the space before we really commit to what we can and cannot make. So I came to this late, and Jordan was really stressing about this presentation, and I hadn't finished it, so this was the end, and I thought that can't be the end, this is the end. I just threw something in there, but I wanted to add one quick thing before I say goodbye, and I was just in the gallery a few minutes ago looking at the C. Armajani stuff. And I have a quick funny story about that. I was in St. Paul in 1987. I was working in a gas station on Grand Avenue, Sinclair Station. And it was a snowy night, and I used to get high and sit in the garage bay and wait, but it was snowing and there was no customers, so I was just reading, whatever, and pretty high. And then this car pulled in, and that was the days when it was always self-serve. So, like, you'd have to go. So I went out and I filled this guy's tank, and then it was very cold, bitter cold, and the window came down just a little bit. The card came out, and I pulled it, and I had to go back to my place and get the swiper. And I looked at the card, and it was C. Armajani, right? So he's from St. Paul, and I had just visited his studio with a class or something. And I brought the card back out, and I put it back through the slot, and I said, "Are you the C. Armajani?" And the window came down. He was looking at this kid with a green Sinclair suit on. He just like recognized him. This is what being an artist is, right? Nobody knows who you are, but the guy at the gas station knew, right? So he talked. We talked for a long time, right? And his wife was in the cartoon. She was pissed off because it was so cold, and he went. But the last thing he said to me was, "Don't stop making work," because I was making art at that time. And he was, "Don't stop making work." And I said, "I won't." And when I was over there looking, so to me that was a magical moment because I got to make contact with somebody sort of in a very surprised fashion, and then it was this very encouraging moment, and the snow was coming down, and it was just soft. Everything was soft. Anyway, I was over in the gallery, and there's a part of the description on the wall says talks about Martin Heidegger and was one of his inspirations, and Heidegger describes the bridge as a phenomenological gathering of object and idea, earth and sky, divinities and mortals. And when I read that, I thought about my presentation, and to kids, a lot of times adults seem like divinities. I mean, to little kids, you seem like kind of like immortal and godlike. And that's, to me, where the book can become that bridge between an adult and a kid and kind of make that connection in the same way that Armajani's work works. So that's where I wanted to stop. Thank you.